Even though we had little, we had to make it look like we had a lot. Finance is hard. It wasn't designed for you. I changed my accent. I started to read the thesaurus. I started to try and learn new words. I used to watch Made in Chelsea. Like I used to do everything.
Who are you?
From slavery, we have been taught how to work hard. If there's a competition for work hard, black people, we're winning.
We'll be getting gold medals.
Oh, we're at the front. We know how to work hard, but we do not know how to make our money work hard for us. In the black community, we have more physical wealth, like cars and so forth, as opposed to like assets like stocks or property wealth. I've met clients that before we have meetings, before we start working together, they couldn't even sleep. Financial education is something that should be taught in church. If I was to create my story, I couldn't create it the way God has done it. I couldn't imagine where I am today. Even if I wanted to create it, I wouldn't have gone this far. Like, that is the power of God in my life.
Hello and welcome to the Faith and Finance podcast from the Pentecostal Community Bank. My name is Brenda Emmanus and I'm delighted to lead you in conversation where faith, finance and purpose collide. Today I'm joined by the brilliant entrepreneur Emmanuel Asuquo, who's a financial advisor, entrepreneur and media personality who's become one of the leading voices in financial literacy in the UK and beyond. Emmanuel's passion isn't just about helping people make more money. It's about changing mindsets, breaking generational cycles, and building kingdom wealth with integrity. As Deuteronomy 8:18 reminds us, it is God who gives us the ability to produce wealth. The truth comes alive in today's episode as we talk about navigating money with wisdom, purpose, and faith. Get ready for some practical gems, biblical truth, and some mindset shifts that might just change the way you view your money. Hi, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Brenda, great to be here. How are you?
I'm good, darling. I'm just really curious. Let's go way back to how you ended up working in finance in the beginning. What was the draw and the appeal of that world?
I guess finance to me looked like a escape from my reality. I think sometimes we're so caught up in where we're at. You know, I've got two immigrant parents. My mum and dad came from Nigeria over here. My dad's an accountant. My mum, she was mainly a dinner lady in schools. She chose that job just so she could be at home to make sure that she finished work when we finished school, so she could be at home. And so they were just navigating life in a totally new country that was new to them. Nobody taught them finance, nobody taught them money, and they were just trying to get by. So because of that, you know, it was a lot of struggle growing up. I used to get, you know, bullied for not having the right trainers or the right clothes. And, you know, I saw my parents just trying to make ends meet. But I grew up in Tower Hamlets in East London, and I used to see these buildings in Canary Wharf, and I was like, no, there's money over there. And so because of that, it was just like, I saw the Barclays building, saw the HSBC building, and I was just like, okay, I got to work in a bank because these guys have got money. And so that became my vision, board, and became the goal to get over and change my life and my family's life.
I remember growing up as a kid, my parents were Catholic, and all I remember them saying, don't waste, save your money. There was always a cautiousness about money and how we behave with and around it. What were you taught?
Yeah, I think different. So my dad was an accountant, so very tight. So very strict, very serious. He has to calculate everything before he spends it. It must make sense. My mum is extremely Nigerian, as in flamboyant. You know, I actually remember there was one time we went to church, and then after church, we were going to see a family friend in Elephant and Castle. And my mum had this white fur jacket. And my dad's like, let's not you wear this jacket. Like, let's leave this jacket at home. Like, my mom was like, no, we're going to church. I've got to go. I've got to show them. My mom was all about, we can't look like us, what we're going through. You know what I mean? Like, our situation can't be shown. We must represent, you know, people know us, and we must always look like we're doing well. And so she wore this jacket. We went to church. After church, we went to Elephant and Castle. Did somebody not break into our car? And my dad was like, because of the jacket. And it's like, that was just, I always remember that story because it's always something that, you know, money was something that, even though we had little, we had to make it look like we had a lot. We had to portray an image. And that's very, very cultural, you know, on my mum's side. Whereas my dad was a bit more stricter on money and so forth. So it was a balance in the house.
That's interesting you said it, because I always think about us and our relationship with clothes in the same way. And it was almost our way, especially for immigrant parents, for them to have a sense of pride. So the thing we do when we want to express wealth is to dress up, or when we want to feel confident of ourselves is to dress up.
Yeah, because you have to remember, I always tell people it's the low hanging fruit, right? So there was the stats that came out in 2018 about the fact that in the black community we have more physical wealth like cars and so forth, as opposed to like assets like stocks or property wealth, especially compared to black Caribbeans. And one of the reason the way I understand is that if I can't buy a house, I'll buy a car because it's more accessible. The deposit for a car is much smaller than the deposit for a house. Plus, people are more likely to see me in a car than they are to come to my house because we tend to meet at events. We tend to go to places and meet as opposed to my mum has this cabinet in the house with all the fine china. How many people have come to visit us?
Do you have to polish it?
You have to clean that. And the fear and trembling, the way you are trembling when you have to clean and dust this, not to break anything. And we've had about 10 visitors in the year. Do you know what I mean? It's like nobody's coming.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yeah, we have to do this. It's just part of culture and the way things are. So it's like we are very much more about what being seen. So our clothes show us who we are, and our car represents us. Whereas in UK and Western society, it's more about the assets. So I always talk about my neighbor, and my old neighbor, if you saw her, lovely family, but they dress very down to earth. Their car, I remember she had a Polo. It just had the P and the O. The other L and O was missing. And I remember we used to sometimes go to work at the same time. And she'd be like, do you want to drop to the station? I'm like, no, I'm okay. I want to walk. Me, I never want to walk. But if it means walk or get in that car, I'm going to walk because I'm not sure the car can manage us both. Do you know what I mean? But her house, she's just done an extension to the back, extension to the top. The house is worth 1.3 million. And so for that, do you understand? So for her, they don't have to worry about how they looked. They're not judged on how they look. Whereas we, especially coming from where we come from, we're always judged on how we look. So we worry about our hair, the way we're dressed. Because if we're not dressed in a certain way, people might think that we are poor, or people might think that we're part of a gang. And so our appearance has always been something that society has always pushed on us. And so because of that, we focus more on how we look than actually how much wealth we actually have.
As someone who teaches financial literacy, what does that do to your heart and your spirit when you think about our community?
Yeah, it's one of the things where I always talk about, the Bible, and I always say the most important thing is you've got to love yourself. If you really understand the word of God, and God says, I knew you when you were a clot of blood, I've created you, you are an individual. Even twins have different fingerprints. When you understand that you are unique, then anything unique is valuable. Anything, and we only have one life to live. I don't know about this whole reincarnation. I'm gone. When I'm gone, me and Jesus, we're chilling.
Run.
You know what I mean? We're gone. So you got this one life. So it's so precious. And so it's so valuable. So when you realize that you're already valuable, you see things differently. You understand that it's not the clothes that make you valuable. You're already valuable. We're just finding out that all these Hermes bags, and they're all worth £2.50. Do you know what I mean? We've been robbed. We're paying thousands for things that are worth hundreds. Do you know what I mean? All in the name of label. And so it's one of those things that when you start to understand your value, then you understand these things don't make me any more valuable. I'm already valuable. And it really does, it's really something that I teach when I sit down with my clients first is how are we going to get to a point where you love yourself? Because if you loved yourself, you wouldn't be making these financial decisions. If you really wanted to achieve those financial goals, your actions don't match your goals. You say you want to buy a house, yet you're forever spending money on takeout. You say you want to buy a house, but you're forever on Uber Eats. Do you know what I mean? Or I meet young people, you earn £2,000 a month. £1,000 is on your car. By the time you add your car, then because you've got an expensive car, the insurance is going to be expensive as well. Then you've got MOT, you've got servicing, maintenance, you're going to have accidents. I mean, the amount that you're spending on something that's going down in value, these are poor financial decisions. But who taught you?
Yeah.
Because if no one teaches you the cycle, so like you said in the intro, for me, it's about breaking these generations. Like I speak to people and I say, how did your parents teach you? And for a lot of the time they say, my parents didn't teach me. And I'm saying, well, have you taught yourself so you can teach your children? And a lot of the time the answer is no. So what's going to happen? The cycle will continue.
That mindset is hard to change. It's like pushing water uphill, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, especially with the digital age, where everything's about comparison, everything's about Instagram, everything's about influencer. If you're the one that stands strong and say, listen, I don't need that Hermes bag, I don't need to be wearing Gucci shoes to be solid, you still have to be in the world. It takes a certain strength. And also the people that come to you are those that have a mindset of change already, hopefully. So do you think you've got a hard job ahead of you, but a worthy job ahead of you?
It's very hard. It's very hard. And to be honest, church doesn't help. Because when pastor is preaching double and prosperity and all that, well, it sounds great. But if you don't tell people the actual training, like financial education is something that should be taught in church. We teach money in church. We teach the principles of giving. We teach the principles of saving, and we teach these, but we don't teach the principles of investing. So what happens? All these people now get money. They said, I'm making this money. And then you go outside and someone says, oh, I can double that money for you. And now you're going to give it to it. And it's a scam and you've lost it. And now you're in a worse place. Or I've seen people take loans to put into bad investments. And now they've lost their homes and so forth. And so it's really important that actually, we are actually learning this in the church, as well as, it says about not being of the world, being in the world, but not of the world. But there are certain key practical things, and money is something that we talk about in church from a point of, I'm a church, I want to take your money, I need your money to survive, and we need the money to keep the lights on. But we don't talk about how do we protect your money to make sure you actually make it grow. Too often, I've said it, from slavery, we have been taught how to work hard. If there's a competition for work hard, black people, we're winning.
We'll be getting gold medals.
Oh, we're at the front. We know how to work hard, but we do not know how to make our money work hard for us. Yeah. And that's my job, and that's what I try and do.
So if you were to speak to church leaders and community leaders, what would be your priority? What do you think? What do they need to change in their scripts?
I think the big thing is number one is the financial education. It's the understanding that, yes, what are we going through? So you're asking people to come to church, and they come to church, and you're saying, give 10%, and then offering, then the roof fund, and then this person.
And then look good to come through the door.
Exactly.
So you're not judged.
And then this person's passed away, and that is a big thing as well. In fact, the pressure to, we've come to God, you have to look a certain way. Like, actually, all of this is happening whilst we're going through a cost of living crisis. Like, the message in church for a lot of churches hasn't changed, yet society is a different place. Yeah, do you understand? It's like, when I go to the barber shop now, if I go to a barber shop and they're still telling me it's £5 for a haircut, I'm worried. I'm like, how can it be? Your gas, your electricity, your rent, your council tax, everything has gone up.
Maybe they just like you.
How can the price still be the same? No, you're not. My hair is not going to end up straight. It's not going to end up even. You understand? And it's the same thing with church. We have to understand that yes, we need people to give. Yes, give to church. Yes, the Bible says to give. But also understand, what are the pressures that we're going through in society? It is one of the hardest times alive, ever to be alive. And so church needs to understand that. And how are you helping people steward their money? How are you helping people learn how to be better with their money, how to increase their money? Because if they can do that, then it makes it easier for them to give. But to tell people to give with no form of training, no understanding, no education, no guidance on how to look after this money that God has given them, I mean, to me, is a big mistake.
Do you ever find sometimes, if you're in church and all that speech and then inciting to give it, do you ever hold back?
Yeah, I give with my heart. So I give what I can give, but also I don't always just give to church. Like, I give to, I'm a big believer in, you can't help everybody, but you can help somebody. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if there's one or two people that you can help, help. Do you know what I mean? So yes, give to church and but also hold church accountable. We're giving. Where's that money going? Who are we supporting? Who are we helping? Whose life are we changing? Church is not a one-way street. And again, maybe it's the church that I go to, but the church that I go to, we hold them accountable. Like, we've given you this money. How much have we raised this year? Where has it gone to? What projects have we put it on? Do we like those projects still? Do we want to change those projects? Are there other things that we can do? We introduced the food bank because you understand food is tough. And as we are human beings, we have pride. So if we know people have pride and it's a hard thing to ask for help, if we can all just buy a little extra and then drop it in there, and then whoever needs it can go and take behind closed doors, no shame, judgment. No embarrassment, no judgment. What are we for? That's what being Christian is about, to me, more than it is about going to speak in tongues and falling over in the front and getting, you know what I mean? For me, it's about, what are we doing? Whose lives are we impacting? What change are we making? Can people tell the difference between us? And I think that's the most important thing. And that comes with our finances as well. How we use them for ourselves, but also how we help others.
Now, I love talking to you because you talk with such passion and knowledge, and humor, and you just make things so real and so understandable that it makes me, who's someone who never used to think much about, makes people excited about money and taking responsibility for themselves. But that must have come from spending time, as you say, in the pillars of Canary Wharf,
Yes.
where I guess you were other, where there weren't many people that looked like you.
Ah,
So I wondered what that learning was like and how that's impacted, or whether that's fueled your passion.
I tell people today, if not for my faith in God, I could not be here today.
Wow.
Because in this life, I think for me, I had to I had to know that somebody more powerful than my boss, more powerful than my bank, my employer, said yes, and yes meant yes. And even if they say no, even if they don't like me, my God will make it happen. My God will make a way. And so when you go and work in finance, especially, it's a very, even up till today, the hours are long. The hours are long. There is a culture of first in, last out. The last one to leave is the one that's serious. Do you know what I mean? And especially when you are the different, you need to be the last one to leave. Do you understand? You're expected. Like, they give you a job and it's almost like you should be happy that we employed you. You can obviously see there's not many of you.
How much does that challenge your faith?
Oh, very much so. It very much. You know what? I always tell people, I grew up in Tower Hamlets, Canary Wharf. I didn't realize I was black until Canary Wharf is in Tower Hamlets. Like, where I grew up is I looked at these buildings 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
But when I got there, it was a different world. And when I got into finance, it was a different world. And I didn't realize how black I was. Do you know what I mean?
There's a great, I keep forgetting who said, I always think it was in Citizen, the book, and I can't remember if I'm going to paraphrase it really badly. And it says, "You never realize how black you are until you're thrown against a white wall."
Yeah.
And that reminds me, because I worked in an institution, and
Yeah.
you really realize how different you are.
Oh, you worked in a serious institution. Yes.
So I guess you had that same experience.
Oh yeah, not as bad. No, I've done.
I had the scars.
I've done a lot with that institution. It's difficult. It's a lot. But finance is hard. It's very hard because it's a space where it's very old school. It's very much about who you know, who you talk to, how you dress. So you've got to dress a certain way. You've got to talk. I changed my accent. I started to read the thesaurus. I started to try and learn new words. I used to watch Made in Chelsea. Like I used to do everything.
Who are you?
Like I used to be a totally different guy. Wear your suits and your tie. Listen, even in a hot day like it's quite warm today, on a hot day like this, you'd have to email to ask if you are allowed to not wear your tie.
Are you serious?
That's how corporate it is. You know what I mean? Maybe you could take off your jacket, but your tie, like there's certain foundations to it. And so it's one of those institutions where it becomes very hard because it wasn't designed for you, especially not me from East London, Tower Hamlets, like from the hood, trying to come in here with my personality. No, the finance isn't designed for personality. Like they want you to just act like everybody else. And it's like, I'm 22, I can't act like a middle-aged white man. I've got to be me.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of friction, but I always tell God is so good. Like I had to go in there to learn and I left. And yet, although I left, eventually me going, what I learned and taking it, being myself, made them come back for me.
Authenticity.
They came back for me.
Yeah.
They said, we need you. We wanna do a campaign to the country and we need your face and your voice. And actually they want me to be me. I'll never forget the first time, I almost cried when I got the brief for the content. And the brief was, and it said, E-man, be E-man.
Wow.
And I said, this is the bank that used to tell me to change.
Fix your tie and change your clothes.
Had to change the way I speak, change the way I walk, change the clothes I wear. And today they're paying me to be me. Isn't God wonderful?
Well, because you know who your leader is, right?
Exactly.
But it sounds like, and for want of a better analogy, it was like your Garden of Gethsemane. It's what you had to go through to learn to fulfill your purpose.
Yes. And it's so important. I tell people, don't mock the small beginnings and don't mock employment. Sometimes, for me, I tell people today, everything I do today, I got paid to learn to do. I learned everything on the job. I made mistakes on their money that now allowed me. Do you understand? I've gone and in the compliance, the documents that we use. A lot of my first clients I met there, I used their brand because people knew their brand. That was why they gave me an opportunity. When I left their brands, because they really had a relationship, they left with me. So it's to me, employment in what you want to do, in your purpose, is so important and such an important part of the journey. Be ready to serve. Like not just as Christians, but also in the workplace, be ready to serve and learn. The problem is that a lot of people go into corporate and you go in there and you just want to fulfill a job. For me, I was learning, like, what does this actually mean? Why do you charge that much? How do you get your clients? Who do you prospect with? What happens if there's a complaint? What's the process? I learned everything. So when I started my business day one, I had the blueprint and I've just been able to grow from there. So to me, employment is a key part, like serving and learning and going to people that are older than me that have gone through the process and just listening. Sometimes it's a humbling experience, just sitting in a room and you feel like I could do this, but actually, no, it's not your turn to do this. Sometimes you have to understand it's not your turn. This is not your time. This is your time to learn from someone else and take from them and add to yourself so that when it is your turn, you're ready.
So where does that voice come from that tells you to be reserved, to know when it's your time? Is it a spiritual connection? Do you think it's your relationship with God or is it experience? Where does it come from? Because some of the people think this is opportunity. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to be the best. Your attitude seems very much different to that.
I think culture, being Nigerian is a big part of it. Like we are taught to definitely respect our elders, to come around your elders. It's one of the best things I think about being Nigerian is that when elders are talking, they want you can't speak, but they want you in the room to see how big people behave. Do you know what I mean? This is what big people do, and so you have that something to aspire to, like this is what you want to do and where you want to go. And I was very lucky that I had a lot of male role models. My uncles always wanted to take me, even before you're even old enough, they want to, do you want to drink? I'm like, no, I'm okay, I don't drink. But they just want you to be around them. They want you to be a man. And it's like actually having that understanding that actually I've learned so much from my uncles. If I can learn from my uncles, why can't I learn from senior people at work? And the thing is, you can learn from anyone. And so for me, that's big. And then also faith in God. I always tell people, like, although you might see me as small, I know the God in me is big. And so God has placed me in this place. So whatever's happening is because God is preparing me. He's always provided. He's always opened doors. He's always brought me to places. If I was to create my story, I couldn't create it the way God has done it. I couldn't imagine where I am today. Even if I wanted to create, I wouldn't have gone this far. Like that is the power of God in my life. And so for me, it's understanding that God's put you in a space, like what can you gain from it? What can you learn from it? How can you develop to then take that on and grow?
Something just touched my heart as you said that, which is something we don't hear them say about many black men nowadays, is that you said you had good male role models.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot now that's part of the challenge that we have now, that there aren't that many, or that generation below us don't have that. Are you mindful of that, even in the way that you bring up your children?
Yeah, so important. Like, so important. This is why my children must go to church. Like, we must go to church. For me, church is so fundamental because for me, like, there are some of my friends, their dads passed when they were young or their dads weren't in their lives. But because we had so many men at church, and church is one of those places where, because they've known you since you're a child, those boundaries are gone. Do you know what I mean? If they see you messing up, they will slap you. And you go and tell your mum. Your mum will slap you too.
There's still that sense of community.
Like
Because I remember playing in the street, and if I was misbehaved, my neighbours would go to my mum. You don't have that now.
No, I have that. I remember even when I was young, when we were on the bus, and if an older person told us to be quiet, we would be quiet. And if one of your friends, there's one friend that wants to talk, hey, shut your mouth, man. Like, we respect our elders. Like, and I think that's so important. Like with my kids, our greeting is so important in our culture. Like, you must greet. Like, you can't, and you must greet properly. Not
my mum is you all must learn to talk properly, and we say, well, listen to your accent. You're not talking properly. We were quite resistant to that.
And it's just so important to have that around you, and then have culture, and be able to. So we always come around, and there's always someone's birthday that we're going to, and having that culture. Church brings that community, and that's so important, because I always tell people, like, my friends from Sunday school, these are my closest friends till today. And it's like you have friends when you go secondary school, college, uni, whatever, workplace. But a lot of the time they're seasonal. They're there for that time. But you've got these guys that you've grown up with, you've learned. So even when one of us goes off the rail, we can pull each other back and say, no, we're not about that. That's not where we've come from. We're able to support each other.
Reason, season, and lifetime friends.
And sometimes you don't want to hear it from your parents. Like, they've been talking to you your whole life.
But also your friends, they know you better than, as you evolve, your friends seem to know you better than your parents.
Yeah, exactly. They know the real
edit the person they see.
Of course, because I remember when one of my friends came to my house, and he was like, "Man, who are you?" Because the second I get into my house, like, "Yes, mum. Okay, mum." Sorry, mum. Like,
Well,
you know what I
friends
mean?
used to say that to me about work when they put on my corporate accent.
Yeah, but you know, like the way you are, and again, because of that, you're shielding that from your parents. You want to show them the best, what they want. But again, you know how you're living outside, so it is about having the right people around you. Just the wrong influence can just turn your life in such a bad way. So that's why it's so important to have as many role models around and have uncles that can speak to you when maybe you don't want to speak to your dad, or aunties that can speak to you, aunties that can even speak to your mum. Like I'm telling you, I've had aunties that I want to do something, and my mum says no, and I can call an auntie and she'll talk to them
Persuade.
and persuade. These things,
My
that's
daughter does that
community.
with my sister.
You see, it's important. That's all part of community, because that means that there's someone to run to that can be trusted, as opposed to running to someone outside that is going to put the wrong message.
Let me throw a proverb at you. Proverb 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. So what does financial diligence look like in everyday life?
I think for me, it's the big thing of, we work so hard for our money. Why do we let it go so easy? Like, think about the hours, the stress. If you got working in London, the train that you got to get in packed, then you got to get in there. You've got office politics. You know, if you then decide to bring your food, then they're sniffing in the air. What's this exotic smell? Do you know what I mean? All the things that you have to go through every time you change your hair. Wow, like, can I touch it? Like, do you know what I mean? These are things that you go through every single day. You then get paid on this one payday, and within 3 or 4 days, the money's gone. Like, it doesn't make sense. And so for me, it's about, actually, I work hard for this money. Where is it going? Where's your budget? How often do you review the money? The Bible says we are stewards. Like a steward, when you come into church, the steward has already gone there. They've already prepared the chairs. They already know. They've already got their sections. As you come in, they're looking at you. How many of you are there? They didn't know how many seats. They're telling another one, 3, 2. It's the same thing.
Organized
That's what
structure, process.
we need to be stewards of our money. We need to know where it's going, how it's coming in, what we're spending on. We need to budget. So that is actually being diligent. And then it's about, how do we make it grow? So we need to, too often we stay in the phase of, I get paid and then I pay all my bills and so I'm okay. No, that's not the end. It doesn't stop there. That's good. But the next step is save. Have an emergency fund. The next step from there is invest. The next step from there is own. The next step from there is create. So there are levels to it, and we just get stuck in this first step. Oh, I pay all my bills. I don't have any debt. I don't owe anyone. I'm in a good space. No, you're at the very basic. You're just comparing yourself to people that are worse than you, so you feel good about yourself, and that's our problem.
Financial wisdom isn't gained by accident. Financial security is not reserved for the privileged few. Getting your money right requires intentionality, practical resources, and education. That's why the Pentecostal Community Bank offers a wide variety of financial literacy workshops, courses, and support to help you get your finances back on track. Find out more by visiting pcbank.co.uk. And on a more personal level, what buzz do you get and what challenge is there in terms of financial discipleship?
Ah, I get a buzz in regards to the change, but most people come in, when I have one-to-ones with them, they come in so heavy. There, there is such a shame and such a stigma with money, that people have been carrying it. I've met clients that before we have meetings, before we start working together, they couldn't even sleep. They're taking sleeping tablets to sleep, because all they do is think about their money problems, and they don't know how to solve it, because they've never been taught. There was no money lesson at school. Do you know what I mean? They taught you Pythagoras, but they didn't teach you how to manage and budget your money. And so it's so important for me. I get a buzz to change that when they leave, and they leave lighter. You can tell from their voice. You can tell they leave confident. They leave empowered. They leave feeling like that they can take control of their future. And so that's the buzz I get. The pain I get is that I can only help so many. And I feel I see so many more of us that are just lost and trapped in this cycle of consumerism that really they want us to be in. Because if we are trapped in consumerism, we make money, we spend it all, we go back again, and we're just on that cycle, that gerbil on the wheel. And I just want to try and help as many people come off it. Hence why I try and use platforms like social media to really enhance the message. But you can only help so many, and so that's the challenge, is reaching more. Hence why I'm here today.
But I know I'm sitting next here opposite a man that knows how to embrace those challenges and run with it. So have you found a solution to how you can reach people or work on a more mass scale?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is about making it relatable. So what we try to do is make finance more entertaining than just so serious, so boring, so dry. Like try and make it relatable, make it something that people feel like actually I can see you're talking to me. It makes sense to me. So I feel like I've really managed to find that art form and the community understand what I'm saying, the way I'm saying it. Oh, sometimes I tell people when I'm out in the street, sometimes I feel like David Beckham, the amount of people that will come and stop you and shake your hand and I love your videos and that is an amazing buzz.
But you've worked for that,
And
so
it's been hard. It's been very hard. It's been a big challenge. But that's the joy you get is there's no money that can really make up for the joy of meeting people that say I've been able to be on the property ladder. I've never spoken to this person in my life, but just through the content that you've put out, you've been able to change their mindset, and they've now been able to become the first person in their family to own a property. People that have paid off 20,000, 30,000 pounds of debt just from the content that you've put out. People that have started investing. People that have now. A lady messaged me the other day. Her child is turning 18 and she now has 30,000 pounds to give to her child that she saved. And she said, I've been watching your videos for the last like 6, 7 years. And that really gave me the motivation to take it more seriously. And now I have this amount to give to my daughter, whether she wants to use it for uni or to buy a property or whatever. I now have this that I never had. No one gave me this when I was that age. And it's like, that's why I do what I do, and that's how we overcome and make change.
well, I can testify to your gift because you just made me think about money in a different way. Like you can think of life as a game. You can think of money in the same way that you've just got to learn the rules and how to play it.
Exactly.
And I feel not that there's still challenge, but you're ready to overcome. Oh, you face it, just
Yeah.
to face it. Because sometimes I think what we do when things get challenging, and no matter what you do, what level you're at, because the more you have, the more you spend, right? You can just bury your head in the sand, and that's when it gets worse.
Yeah, and I think also money's emotional, right?
Yeah,
So
there's
so
that.
whenever I speak to clients, they have emotional attachments. It might be to a car, it might be to a house, it might be to going on
A wardrobe of
holiday.
clothes that you don't even wear.
I mean, I've literally I did it. I've literally done it where we've gone to a person's house and we've gone to their wardrobe and we've added up the bags, the shoes, the clothes, and we're talking 40, 50,000 pounds.
That's a
And
wake up call,
and
isn't
and,
it?
and then there's no deposit. You're renting. You've got no deposit. Your deposit is in your wardrobe. You spent your deposit on clothes and bags and shoes to stay renting and having a landlord and having no ownership because of the mindset. And so, like you said, there are rules to the game. So once you understand the rules, you play the game differently.
So, if there was one principle about money management that you wish everyone understood, what would it be?
Money is a tool. I think when I understood that money is a tool to make more money. So the way we understand money is I've got money to buy stuff. But no one ever taught us that if you actually get money, you can use money to make you more money. And when you understand that money is a tool to make money, it's like, oh, like I speak to my friend Bricks with Tips, we do a podcast together. And like there are things that he wants to buy, but he's like, if I actually save this for the next 3 months, that's a deposit for another deposit for a house or for this or for and so because he does properties, like I could furnish a house for that. And then if I furnish it well, I'll get X amount of income back for that. So actually, I'm not gonna buy that. I'm gonna. Do you know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
understand what money can actually do and what money can bring back to you, you're less likely to spend it in a bad way. When you understand it's actually a tool to make money as opposed to something to buy stuff.
It is literally literacy, isn't it? It,
Yeah.
it really is. So, how do you respond to the idea, or do you see it as a myth that Christians shouldn't talk about money? Like sometimes I remember being somewhere and someone was just talking freely. So, they're a very successful business person, and they went, "Well, how much do you earn?" I'm like, rude, and that was intuitively
Of course.
kind of your response. Do you think that's something that we need to get over ourselves about?
I think definitely. I think how much you earn is quite invasive, and I think there needs to be a relationship there. But for example, I have core like my people, my influencers, my other financial influencers. We talk about money all the time because we're not going to make sure that these brands are not going to rob us. Do you know what I mean? Because and again, if you're taking lower, that's going to affect me. Because when I go now, they're going to think I'm too expensive because they're going to say, "Oh, I can get." So we always communicate about what we charge, how much we charge, how much we charge for talks, and all the.
That's really mature. That's new.
It's new, but it's important because guess what? Other communities they've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
It's just new to us. But it's so important that you have these conversations. And again, is have these networks. There are platforms like Glassdoor that you can go and find out salaries. I promise you, like the problem is because we are coming from such a low point. Someone offers you 50K, you sound, oh my goodness. £50,000. Number one, that's gross. That's not what's coming into your bank account. And that's a big problem as well, because people spend like they're earning 50K when really you're earning 30 something. Do you know what I mean? After tax. So we need to get that out. But number two is that actually you're so happy with 50K, but the person next to you is on 65 because they understand their worth. And because they have a network and because they know somebody that works. And that's why I say spend more time on LinkedIn than you do on Instagram. But actually connect with people in your industry so that when it's time for you, you know that, okay, actually, how much should I be asking for? Create these networks. These networks are so valuable. And so for me, it's about having those conversations about money, making sure that we're getting paid. That's why if I'm a company, what do I want you to do? I don't want you to talk about the salaries because you're all on different money. Yeah. My job, my biggest outgoing is salary. People's salaries is my biggest outgoing as a company. So the less you talk about it, the more I save, the better it is for me. And it's about you understanding that actually if I can't have these conversations in the workplace, let me join a network, let me create a community where we can have these conversations. And that way make sure that we're getting paid our worth.
Because they say women are particularly bad at asking for what they're worth at work, but I think you could say that probably about our community as well, right?
You know, definitely, just in general. I think to be honest, women are definitely getting better. And why? Because they network, because they go to events, because they're having the conversation. I think sometimes you can oppress a people so much until a point where they say, you know what, we're not having it. And that's one thing I'm so proud about Black women about, because most of my clients are Black women. So I've seen the progression I've been doing this, focusing on our community for the last 10 years. And the salaries that Black women are getting now is... It's wonderful. Sweet. It's so sweet. And it's like, actually, this has come through community. This has come through, actually, I work in HR. Let me get all my HR friends. I work in IT. Let me get IT friends. I'm a contractor. Let me get my contract friend. And actually, even understanding about contracting. We didn't understand contracting. But for a lot of us, contracting is a secret sauce that we needed. Actually doing the same job, but not, okay, we don't get pension, but we get paid more. And also, we don't have to deal with the office politics. We just come and do our job and go. That suits a lot more of us. And we're able to leverage these systems. And we can still get mortgages and still get all these other things if we need to. So for me, it's about, but that comes through conversation. Even now, everyone's buying a house for a limited company. People don't know how to do it. If you're not in the right network, you're not going to understand why people are buying houses through limited companies rather than themselves. And so it's so important to be in the networks, surround yourself so you can get this information.
But what would you say to someone, for example, who doesn't work for a corporation, who's freelance? For example, in the last 5 years, I'm in that field where you're freelance. Your priorities then become very different because it's like feast or famine sometimes. You're rebranding, you're doing whatever you're doing, and the flow isn't as constant as if you're getting a paycheck every month. What do you think should be the attitude and the priorities of people then in that freelance, self-employed world?
Yeah, one thing I always say is money generating activities. It's the most important part. Is that a lot of the time I meet freelancers, I meet people in business, and they are very busy. Business people tend to be very busy.
They're very busy.
But are they doing income generating activities? Like when you actually look at the things that you do, how many of the things that you do actually make you money? And so sometimes we're stuck opening emails, responding to stuff that actually make us not really that much money. And actually the thing that makes you money, you're not out doing because you're doing all the other stuff that you could give to somebody else. So it's so important to look at especially when you're in a point where you need to increase, what are the things I need to do today that are going to generate me income? And we can't live month to month. So you have to get to a point where there's overflow. And so you are working on the things I'm doing today is going to pay me in 2 or 3 months' time. So that way you've already got money for those months. And so that's how you kind of try and level it out. Because the problem with the world is that society is designed to be paid month to month. But when you're self-employed, 1 month can be amazing and then it's quiet for 2 or 3 months until you get paid. Plus you've got to wait 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to get paid, even when you're doing stuff. So you've got to try and regulate what you're doing and then also have things that you're in control of. So a lot of the time you might work with other corporates. What are the things that you can control? What are the whether it's mentorship or courses or training, what are things that you can use, the skills that you've built up to get you to where you're at outside of your business? What else can you do that you can then leverage that can bring a more regular income? Because the problem right now is that we are in a society that's more on subscription. We are a Netflix society. We like to play things monthly. So what are you providing? What value are providing to the masses on a monthly basis? I always talk about Netflix because at one point Netflix was $4.99 and yet it was $1 billion company. So again, it's either you do something really low price to the masses or you do something high price to a few. But what is the value? Who can you help? I always tell people that's what I wake up thinking about every single day. I don't wake up thinking about how do I make more money. I wake up thinking, who can I help?
And let's talk about mindset a bit, because a lot of you can do that sort of thing
Hmm.
if you're confident about your self-worth. And I think
Yeah,
for a lot of us, especially if you've been in a corporation
yeah.
or you believe in what you see on social media and you don't have a big following or whatever it is that determines the way you value yourself, that can really impact
Hmm.
on what the wealth you generate. How did you how I mean, you must see yourself as a multi-million dollar man, right? I'm assuming.
It's just who you're around, right? You
Your
understand that
net, so you believe your network
it's
is your
so
net worth. Your
you're
net worth is your net worth.
yeah, your network is your net worth, and it's your confidence, right? So your confidence comes from the ability of knowing that it's possible. Yeah, so you are confident once you know it's possible. So the reason that I'm as a financial advisor, my clients sometimes they know what they need to do, but the fact that I've told them, they now have a confidence in me that now gives them a confidence in themselves. It's like a child, you tell a child might want to do something, but once you give them the instructions as a parent, they're now confident to go ahead. And because they've got that instruction, they might have already known what to do, but that additional confidence comes from that guidance. And so for me, being part of a community is so important. Having like-minded people, seeing people that are in similar situations to you change their situation and understand, okay, how can I apply this to myself? So that having that community breeds confidence. And that's why it's so important to have a community. Who are you with? Who are you talking to? Who are you having discussions with? Who are you, when you have these days where you wake up and you feel low and you feel afraid or you feel like things are not going, yes, you can talk to God, but what humans can you talk to? What people can you talk to? What group do you have around you that can say, no, Brenda, you're amazing. You know who you are. Like, look at all the things you've achieved. We've seen your journey. We know what you can do.
But you have to feel it, someone telling you sometimes, and I can say that as a testament to myself. Sometimes people telling you is not, you have to genuinely feel it. And sometimes it comes from experience. Sometimes you have to find that from somewhere. And that can be the hardest thing.
It's so hard, but I think a lot of the time the problem is that we want to feel it in our bank account. Yeah. So the way we feel confident, we tend to feel confident is how much money we have, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're self-employed and there are times where money is low, now you don't feel confident anymore. But you're still the same person that generated X amount of income just last month. Even if money didn't come in this month. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It doesn't change. And so when you understand that, I always tell people, you're a millionaire in your mind before you are in your bank account. So if I'm doing the work, the actions will come. I always talk about the farmer that goes out and prepares the ground and plants the seeds and looks after the cattle and looks after the cat. They know that it's gonna bear fruit because they're doing the work. Too often we are in our minds and we're just not doing the work, and then wondering why things are not prospering. But actually, you haven't done the work. You haven't planted the seed. You haven't gone to the networking events. You haven't gone to speak to people. You haven't even talked about your offer. You're actually too afraid to talk about the service that you can provide and how much you charge. You wonder why you're not making money. Listen, McDonald's, KFC, listen, Coca-Cola. Every Christmas they do this advert with Santa Claus. People are buying Coke anyway, but they still shout and make noise about their brand and what they do. So if success leaves clues, if all these big companies are forever reminding us about themselves, why do you only tell us once about your brand or your offering and then you're scared to say it again? Please say it regularly, as much as you can. Remind us, because that's what big corporations do. Because the more you remind your audience, the more you remind people, that one day when they need it, they'll be like, Brenda, yes. Whereas if you don't, they'll remember somebody else. And then they'll meet you and be like, I had this opportunity, but I should have recommended you, but
Yeah,
I
you've
just
got to
didn't think
stay
about you.
visible.
You've always got to be visible. You've always got to be shouting about it. So sometimes the reason you're not making the money you want to make is because you're not talking about how you can help people. And it's that that fear of, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to talk about money. I'm here to help. Listen, how can you can help, but you must charge. You must charge, and you must be proud to charge and know that the value that you're giving is worth what you're charging. And so we have to be bold and be out there about what we can do, and that's how we can make money, especially as business owners and entrepreneurs.
Talking about being brave and out there, do you think we also need to learn to be a bit more risk averse? Are you pro people taking chances on stocks and shares and cryptocurrency, etc.?
Yes, we got to take. We are too risk adverse. We are too like, oh no, I don't want to take any risks. And I get it.
But I meant the
Yeah,
opposite, in fact. Yeah.
we are too. We need to be more adventurous. We need to be more out there. We need to understand. But again, I tell people will be like, okay, I don't want to take risks. But when you compare, if you think about a savings account and you say to yourself, oh, I'm going to get 3% or 4%, but then if inflation is 5%, you're losing money. So you're guaranteeing yourself a loss, because we all know what £10,000 could do 10 years ago, it can't do today.
Absolutely.
So if you had £10,000 and then you still have £10,000, you tell yourself, well, I haven't lost any money. But yes, you have, because money is only applicable when you go to spend it. And this is why we have to look at ways to make our money work. We have to look at stocks, shares, investing, property, business. We have to look at ways to make our money grow, because inflation and the cost of living is forever battling with our money. So we have to look at that. But again, it's going to feel risky to you because of the lack of education. It's going to feel risky to you because of the fear. But guess what? The bank that you leave your money in, banks don't use bank accounts. And I say this all the time. And those big buildings that you see, they're not. They're not looking after your accounts. When you call, you're calling Australia and India, and you're calling
exactly
your bank. Those buildings, they're trading your money every day. Banks are investing and trading your money. And if they're not trading your money, they're loaning that money back out at a higher interest rate than what they're giving you.
Back at, yeah.
So if banks are literally making your money work every single day, why do you leave your money in a bank account and do nothing?
Interesting. So tell me about what your next step is in terms of, you're building an academy, right?
Yes. So I've got the Wealth Creation Academy, and it's basically my community. So what we are doing is basically giving people the confidence. So I have regular meetings with them. I bring my friends in that are that work in finance and money. So we've had talks on property, how to do your credit score, how to fix your CV, all about money and finance. But how often do you have a space where you can just talk about money freely and not be judged, and just be like, actually, my business needs this, or actually, I've got this debt. Does anyone got any tips? Or I'm struggling with this. We have a community so that you can have confidence. And again, I can support the community. I have regular one-to-ones every month with everyone in the community to make sure that they're on track for their goals and they're reaching them and they're working towards them. And we just check to make sure you actually get your goals. I always tell people you're 70% more likely to achieve your goals if you've got an accountability partner. So we come into the group, I become the main accountability partner, but also the group holds you accountable to the things that you want to achieve. We have live events, online events. We keep it going throughout the month, throughout the year, to really encourage you so that you can reach your goals. And then I give access to my network. So if you need a mortgage, if you need to set up a trust, if you need help on insurance, whatever it may be, we help you all along the way in a supported community.
It feels like something that if we'd done that as a community so long ago, imagine where we'd be sitting now. We'd be building our own Trump towers, for want of a better analogy, right?
Exactly that. And that's what, it's got to start somewhere, right? I always tell people, you can't change yesterday, but you can change your tomorrow. Like, do you understand? Like, sometimes we are so living in yesterday. If the amount of times I'll meet people like, if only I had invested in this, if only you didn't.
What's that line? If it's an obstacle that stands in my way, if it wasn't for if, I'd be happy today.
You see? Love that. And so that's why it's about, okay, you didn't make that investment, but what investment are you going to make in the future? How, and again, why did you make that investment? A lack of education. When we talk about, Bitcoin, for example, everyone's saying, if I had bought Bitcoin when it was only $1, there was a lack of education. You didn't understand it. It felt scary at the time because you didn't have that knowledge. So how are you equipping yourself now so that when that next opportunity comes around, you are able you're ready for it? That's why we have a community.
Well, we're so glad that you're forever ready on our behalf. Emmanuel, thank you so much. God bless you.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure seeing you.
Wow, what an episode. Emmanuel reminded us that financial freedom is about more than numbers. It's about mindset, discipline, and faith in action. Whether you're just starting your wealth journey or already walking in abundance, we all need wisdom, strategy, and scripture to keep us grounded. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs that extra encouragement to pursue purpose and prosperity with God at the center. You can find Emmanuel online, check out his latest projects, or book him to speak. The links are in the description box. Until next time, keep stewarding your gifts, and remember, your finances can be a tool for freedom, impact, and kingdom legacy. Grace and peace.